If you clicked on this video, you're either probably recently engaged or you're somewhere along the wedding planning process thinking, what have I got myself into? Now, as newlywed, as of 4 months, I was also in that same boat of the second option. I honestly regret planning a wedding, and Mike had talked about honestly wishing we had eloped. And kind of glad we didn't, because our wedding turned out so cute and it was just a great wedding. But I just kind of thought I did learn a lot through the process. So I thought I could bring you along with me, share some of my top tips and advice and everything I learned along the way while cleaning up my own mess. Because after the wedding, I was just so over it. I was like, I'm shoving this in a closet, never touching it again. But that's just not feasible. So 4 months later, I'm gonna clean up my wedding mess and bring you along with me. So let's get into it. So the first step is going to be moving all of this stuff into the office so I can actually organize it all and sit down and talk with you. I think before we do that, I need a cozy drink because this is a train wreck. Everything now is moved, and now my office looks like a bomb has exploded in it. But good news is I should be able to fix that relatively quickly. I was going to talk while sorting, but that ended up glitching my brain, and I kept putting things in the wrong piles, so we're just going to do a voiceover. First off, the dress. The dress is made out to be one of, if not the biggest things for a wedding, which puts a ton of pressure on it. And of course, a common expectation that everyone has going into it is that you're going to get the feeling. Kind of like on the show Say Yes to the Dress, where they had these big, huge, dramatic reactions. If you've had those, great. I mildly had that feeling, but not as much as I've seen others have, and I know some didn't have it at all. So if you don't have that feeling, you aren't broken. As long as you feel pretty in it, that's all that matters. When shopping for your dress, you may also be looking for it to be the perfect fit, which 9 times out of 10 is just not possible. Mine was a pretty close fit, but I still needed alterations. And sometimes they also need to be modified to your liking. For mine, I bought a sleeveless dress, and then I bought sleeves from a separate store after that were then attached during alterations, and it worked out perfectly. Also on the note of shopping, if you are a people pleaser, this is not the time to be one. I went to one dress store and tried on 6 to 7 dresses, and I thought I loved one, but to this day, I still think I was just people pleasing. I felt bad dragging someone with me to different stores, but don't be afraid to. It's your big day and your wedding dress. Plus, if you go to one store, find a dress, and think it's the right one, you can always go back for it later. So don't be afraid to go to multiple stores. People are more than willing to. Another thing not commonly mentioned that ties in with the people pleasing is dress regret. I thought I was going crazy when 2 months after buying it, I suddenly hated my dress. I was literally contemplating buying a new one. I had never heard anyone talk about it till like 6 months into wedding planning, and when I did, it was the biggest aha moment I've ever had. Oh, and by the way, I didn't buy a new one. The one I have ended up being beautiful. But just know, if you're feeling this, or later on you do feel it, it is totally normal and it's okay. You will still be beautiful. It's just the wedding crazies kicking in. The next big thing you have to choose typically is your venue. We got super lucky in this department. We walked through one venue, loved it, and booked it. I have zero regrets to this day because it was a stunning venue, But like I said, we got extremely lucky. I would not recommend doing this. I would definitely say look around multiple venues, shop around, and just like with a dress, you can always come back to it. At the point you have the dress and the venue, that's when you typically start picking out decor. While it can be tempting, don't be a trend follower. With social media, it's so easy to get caught up in what everyone else is doing and how much other people are spending, but each wedding is different and may not need a DJ or a florist or a huge, expensive, elaborate cake. For example, my dad got a speaker set up and we had my brother play the music from his phone, and it worked great for a fraction of the cost that we got from a DJ. And for our cake, I actually made ours, and it was just a tiny 6-inch red velvet cake with cream cheese frosting, and we just did it for the first bite, and we had adorable mini desserts for everyone else that were also delicious. I may have had some. Do what you love and what fits your budget. It's completely unrealistic to match others because you don't know what life they're living outside of just this wedding. Personally, one of my biggest issues with decorating was buying too early. It's so tempting to because it's one of the most exciting parts, or at least it was for me. But until probably 6 months before your wedding, the idea of what you want, what you need, and what you can actually afford changes so much, especially if planning over a longer period of time. We planned for about 1.5 years, and I can't even count the number of times what I ended up wanting to do changed. And in the end, we didn't use like 70% of what we bought or what we DIY'd. And we could have saved a lot of money and time and stress if we had just waited. Early on, I would recommend maybe getting like inspo boards going and like fun lists. But I would wait to actually purchase any of those things until around 6 months. Unless it's being customized, then go with your own judgment there. This probably should have gone along with trend setting and not following trend setting, but I just now remembered this. Don't be afraid to be unconventional. Unconventional is sometimes the best thing. People might try to talk you out of it because it's not what they pictured for your wedding day, but don't let them. It's ultimately your wedding day. We actually had my dad become an officiant, and we worked with him to write a speech completely from scratch, which was completely customized to us and the words that we wanted, and he married us. And it was by far one of my favorite parts of the day that I'll always remember. And for our food, we actually did Chick-fil-A catering and had zero regrets. Food tasted great, it was a crowd favorite, and best of all, it was in our budget. Now back to decorating. I swear that is the only tangent I will go on. But with decorating, don't get wrapped into the go big or go home mindset. We personally focused in on tons of cute tiny details instead, and they made a huge difference. I've heard from so many people that they love the tiny details from our wedding. One thing that turned out great is that instead of doing typical name cards at tables, we did envelopes with names, and in each envelope was a personalized note for each person that focused on a core memory with them and then thanking them for coming. Everyone was in tears, and it made for great moments, and overall everyone loved them. They also loved our scratch-off favor. We got cheap little $1 scratch-off cards and put them in little brown envelopes, and on them we wrote Lucky in Love, and overall it was super cheap, and it was so fun watching everyone scratch theirs off. We even had someone give us theirs that they won on. Those memories will stick with me way more than any larger items that are just there for decoration. Another one of my favorite things were actually our flowers. We did wood flowers from Solo Wood, and this is not sponsored at all, but they turned out great and they were fantastic in pictures. Plus, they created super fun memories. The way we did ours is you can either get them pre-done for a slightly extra cost, still very affordable, but we actually did the DIY version. And my maid of honor and I got together and we dyed the flowers and we made our bouquets, and it was just so much fun to do, and we both got to keep ours, and I still have mine. On top of that, they're also, like I said, super affordable. Altogether, everything that I got came to about $150. And if you go the wood flower route like we did, bonus tip, Spray your bouquet with your wedding day scent for a nice extra touch. Now, these last two, I would say, are my top 2 tips. My first one is, it's so easy to get caught up in the chaos, but make sure to slow down and remember that you guys are the guests of honor, not the hosts. Get someone else to do hostess duties. If you can't afford to hire someone, ask a friend or loved one. My stepmom handled it for us and did amazing. Make sure to just focus on the 2 of you and spending as much time together as possible. Lastly, and I think most importantly, remember that the point of a wedding is to marry the person you love and about the love you have for them. So if something doesn't fit that, don't do it and don't stress the details. If at the end of the day, all you did was get married, then it was a success. Also, if you're on the fence about eloping, really sit down and talk about it with your fiance. We, like I said earlier, really wish we had eloped and used that money on our honeymoon, but by the time we realized, we were in too deep and we couldn't do anything about it. I could go on and on and on about advice because I learned so much, but I would say that overall, these are my top tips. So really, I may have been just a little bit dramatic. This wasn't that bad. I mean, it was tiring, yes, but now I feel a lot better. I have a nice, easy sell pile to manage, and hopefully I can get someone to buy this pretty quickly. And I just hope that something I said today helps someone out there. I remember what it feels like being lost and overwhelmed while planning. So hopefully this helps, and make sure to comment your favorite piece of advice from this video, or comment another piece of advice you've heard from somewhere else that you think could help someone. Thanks for watching.